Alright, so this is the first video in a two-part, what you might call series, on close analysis of texts. Now this is a skill that is really important for you to develop over the next 2 years, so in year 11 and year 12, mainly because it will help you to draw as many nuances and what might think are hidden meanings in text as much as possible. A lot of this has to do with your ability to infer and draw meaning out of words and language and how language is used. It's got a lot to do also with trying to make connections. Connections within texts and connections outside of texts. It's very likely that some of you already use these skills, but it's helpful sometimes to just have it structured and explained in a manner which is pretty concrete and at least is seemingly logical. The great thing about close analysis is that it's not just about applying it to texts. You can actually apply this to anything, to analyze anything. The basic concept is to look at something really closely, to take it apart on a really micro level, and then gradually expand out to a macro level where you are connecting to the bigger picture. And that's what I'm going to try and show in this video. So I'm just going to go through quickly the 4 steps that I think you really need to consider when doing close analysis. Some of these steps that you can break up into maybe sub-steps or subheadings, but useful to just think of it as 4 to not experience any cognitive overload. So the first step is to define the words you don't know, and that's simply because you need to be able to comprehend the text that you're trying to analyze. So defining the words, understanding what they mean, just helps you to understand on a surface level, on a literal level, what the text is trying to tell you. So that's the first step. The second step is to draw conclusions from only the sentence or passage that you are analyzing. Often, you don't need to look at huge pieces of text in order to draw a lot of meaning out of it. Sometimes there's a lot packed into just one sentence, or a few sentences, a short passage. So the second step is to just focus on the sentence or passage itself, not to go beyond that yet, but just to focus on what are some conclusions that you can draw just from looking at that passage or sentence. The third step is to make connections to other parts of the text to build your understanding, beginning with the paragraph that the sentence or passage is in, and then to expand to other parts of the text. The basic principle here is that sentences only really make sense when you see them in the context of other sentences and ultimately in paragraphs. Paragraphs only make sense when you read them with that paragraph in mind, and then the paragraph before it and the paragraph after it, and then those only make sense if you read the whole chapter. And then the chapter only makes sense if you read the whole book. You get my drift. So starting off small. So the third step there is to make a connection to the paragraph that the sentence or passage is in, and then expand it to other parts of the text, right? Because very rarely will any author simply insert a sentence or write a passage of text without thinking about how that connects to the rest of the novel, or whatever text you're trying to analyze. And the fourth step, which is the one where you need to go beyond the text, is making connections to the relevant context outside of the novel. So for example, the historical context. That's a really important aspect to consider because the VCE study design requires you to make connections to what was going on at the time. What views or values is the author trying to convey about the time that they were living in? Or the kinds of issues that were arising around that time. Okay? A visual way of thinking about it would be this kind of bullseye, badly drawn diagram. So this method starts close and then zooms out to provide the bigger picture. Again, you can use this to analyze anything. So step 1, defining words, is really at the center because you're just really zooming in and just focusing on the sentence or passage itself. Step 2, which is the blue circle, is again where you're just focusing on that sentence and passage. And you see as we move to step 3 and step 4, it gradually ripples out or branches out. So again, 3 is making connections to the paragraph that the sentence or passage is in, and then to other parts of the text that are relevant. And then step 4 is going really far out, so looking actually outside of the text, going beyond it, and thinking about the historical context or any other context that might be relevant and might help us to view or understand or interpret that text on a deeper level. So this is the first video of 2. In this one I've tried to just explain the concept. In the second video I'm going to try and apply it to a passage in the text we're studying, The Great Gatsby.